Ahoy hoy, this is Michaela from Team Retro, where we like retro games, we like roguelikes, and we like the devices that bring them to us. The very first retro device I ever worked on was a Retroflag GPi Case. It was a device that I actually built for my friend Jeremy, and Amazon had accidentally sent me two, so I kept the second one for myself. But I was never really impressed with the device. It ran on a Raspberry Pi Zero, and it was just really underpowered, and you couldn't get it to play anything that wasn't Nintendo or Game Boy. It was really meant to be just a handheld device. Well, around November of last year, the Raspberry Pi Zero 2W came out with the exact same form factor as the original Raspberry Pi Zero, but with a much needed processor upgrade that makes the GPi Case actually a viable handheld in 2021 and 2022. So I figured for this past Christmas, I would get a Raspberry Pi Zero 2 and upgrade my boy Jeremy's GPi case. Now, because I was so unimpressed with the original, I had sold it, so I had to go back on Amazon and grab another one because I didn't want to spoil the surprise. And the GPi Case 2 was just announced, so these had gone down in price. Spoiler alert, I bought the GPi Case 2 as well. We'll be doing a video on that in the future. So back on topic, my friend Jeremy was very happy with the upgrade I had made to his unit, so I figured I would make a video as to how I took an old school GPi case and upgraded it with a Raspberry Pi Zero 2W. And originally this video was going to be part tutorial, part review, but I found myself getting into the weeds with this device and really doing a lot of setup and tweaking, and the video started to run long. So instead of doing a full review in one video, I'm going to be talking about this product over the next couple of videos, and this video is just going to be a startup guide. I'm basically going to show you how to set up the SD card, I'm going to show you how to put the Raspberry Pi Zero 2 in the unit, and we're going to set up some themes, customize the front end, and we're going to set up our emulators for 8 16-bit systems as well as handhelds and PlayStation 1. And if you have one of these and you're upgrading from a Raspberry Pi Zero to a Raspberry Pi Zero 2, you will be capable of some N64 and Dreamcast performance, so we will cover that in the next video. And hopefully this video will get you up and running and playing. So let's jump in and let's get started. So we're actually going to jump into this device by first opening the battery cover. Inside, you'll see a safe shutdown switch. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to flick that to on. Now, this GPi case does not come with an SD card, so you're going to need to get one. I grabbed a 64GB SanDisk, and I'm going to plug that into the computer now. Now, you can go with RetroPie with this setup, but I'm actually going to go with a front end called Recalbox. This front end is a lot more user-friendly than the others and actually lets you put your ROM, BIOS, and theme files right on a partition on the SD card instead of having to FTP in. So on the Recalbox website, we're going to click download, and we're downloading for a Raspberry Pi, so go ahead and click that. And we're actually going to click GPi Case plus Raspberry Pi Zero 2. And from there, it's going to prompt us to download and install the Raspberry Pi Manager. So go ahead and do that now. We're on Windows, so I'm going to download it for Windows. And once that's downloaded, we can go ahead and click the exe file to open it up and click to install. I actually already installed this program for another build that I was working on, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the program. And it couldn't be simpler. Under Operating System, go ahead and click Choose OS, choose Emulation and Game OS, choose Recalbox. Here it's going to load the various builds. The one we want is GPi Case plus Raspberry Pi Zero 2. Then go ahead and choose your storage. You want to pick your micro SD card. And then go ahead and click write. And what this is going to do is this is going to flash your SD card with a special build of Recalbox specifically for this unit. And it's already going to have our GPI screen patch and our safe shutdown scripts already installed. And while this is downloading and flashing to your SD card, we're actually going to proceed to start building the unit. So installing the Raspberry Pi Zero 2 is actually fairly easy. We're going to pick the Raspberry Pi up and we're just going to line up the unit with the pins in the cartridge. We're not actually placing the unit in yet, I just want to show you how to line it up. All of the ports should be facing up. Now let's go ahead and take the GPIO board and we're going to plug it into the middle micro USB slot. And we're just going to carefully make sure that the GPI board matches up with the GPI holes on the unit itself. And we're going to place the Raspberry Pi right in the cartridge. We're not screwing anything in yet, we're just lining everything up. Let's take our micro SD cover and we'll seat that in place. That's fairly easy to do. Just make sure it lines up with the side of the cartridge slot. And then just push down when it's in place. When everything is put together, this will never come out. It'll just open and close as necessary. Alright, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and snap the cover into place. Just push down good, don't go too hard. You'll hear a satisfying click when everything goes into place. And that's it, our Raspberry Pi Zero 2 is installed. So the last thing we need to do is just screw everything together. So let's grab the included screwdriver and the included screws and let's go ahead and seal this up. Just don't screw it too tightly. Once you start getting resistance on the screws, you can go ahead and stop. You don't want this to be too tight, otherwise you could damage the GPIO pins. Alright, that's it. We're good to go. By now, our SD card should be finished flashing, so let's go ahead and put the SD card in the Raspberry Pi Zero 2, and let's fire this unit up. We do need to do an initial boot before we could go any further, so we're going to do that now. Once the SD card is properly put in place, let's go ahead and put the cartridge into the unit itself. Now, I'm actually using rechargeable Energizer batteries here, but I'm going to include a non-affiliate link in the description to the best rechargeable batteries to use on this device. And the batteries go in the same way as they did on an original Game Boy. You'll probably get some super nostalgia vibes just putting these regular AAA batteries into this unit. Sad to say, this is probably only good for about 3 hours of gameplay. Alright, moment of truth. Let's flick the unit on, and if you have a screen and it installs stuff, then you're good to go. What it's doing here is it's repartitioning the drive, and it's putting in some freeware games. And I sped this up, but this is going to take a bit of time, so it's a great time to get a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom. And here we are on the initial boot up screen. Of course, it uses Emulation Station as a front end. But we are officially in Recalbox. And there's a couple things you can do right off the bat. There are some freeware games in here that you can check out and you can test and make sure that everything's running properly. But we're going to start customizing this unit, so let's shut this down. Because our safe shutdown scripts are installed, we should just be able to click the power button and it will safely shut down the unit. And let's go ahead and plug the SD card back into our computer. And we now have that share partition that we can use to put themes, BIOS files, and ROMs in. So we're going to start with themes. I picked 3 themes I found off the internet that are specifically meant for the GPi case. I'll include the links to these themes in the video description. So for each of these themes, we're going to right-click the zip file, and we're going to click Extract All, and we're going to let these files extract to an unzipped folder right in the Downloads folder that we're working out of. We're going to do this for each theme. Now, each folder has a subfolder with the exact same name, and in that subfolder has all the contents. So in our shared drive, we're going to go into the themes folder, and then we're going to click on to each of these themes, and we're going to drag that subfolder right into the themes folder on the SD card. And we're going to do that for all three themes. And I'm just deleting the files as I go, just so that I don't get confused myself. You'll know you've installed everything correctly if you go into the folder for the theme on the SD card and you see all of the assets. Now we need to do a small change for Atari Lynx. We need to actually rename Atari Lynx to just Lynx, Lynx. And the reason we need to do this for each theme is because these are RetroPie themes, but they will work on Recalbox. Recalbox just has a different naming convention for this particular system. So if you don't change the folder from Atari Lynx to Lynx, it won't recognize that system in the theme. Luckily, it's as simple as changing the folder name. You don't need to go in and change any configuration settings. And again, we need to do this for each theme that we install on the unit. This next step is optional, but I like to have my own menu music. So we're actually going to go into the music file, and you can put MP3 files, you can put FLAC files, you can actually use quite a few file formats for menu music. I actually have a small collection of MP3 files that I use on my RG351V. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag those files into the music folder here on the SD card. Now there are also subfolders to put your BIOS files and your ROMs files, and if you go into the ROMs folder, you'll see that everything is sectioned out by system. So if you go into Game Gear, you can see I have all of my Game Gear ROMs here. Unfortunately, I can't tell you where or how to get BIOS or ROM files. You'll have to use Google for that, but you can find some RetroArch BIOS packs and you can find some ROM sites out there. And once you have your ROMs ready to go, we're going to scrape box art for them, and we're going to use a program called Scraper, Skraper. You need a free Screen Scraper FR account for this. I'll include a link to both the Scraper program and screenscraper.fr in the description. So we're going to go ahead and run the wizard, and you're going to put your account information up at the top here and validate it. Then let's click Next. And we're going to click Recalbox, click Next again, and we're going to browse to our share partition of our SD card, and we're going to go to the ROMs folder. Click OK, and it will populate the system with all of the systems it sees in that folder. Go ahead and click Next, and it'll open up the front end here. So let's go ahead and change some settings here. If we go under Game List, under game list type, we're going to change to no backup, create new, or overwrite existing. Now let's go to the media tab, and we're going to delete all the images here. The only thing we are going to add is a box art 2D image. This is probably the best image that you'll get with a GPi case. And we're not going to scrape any videos because they just don't seem to pop up with this build at all. So we're just going to stick with the box 2D. Then under the directory, we're just going to get rid of the media folder, and we're just going to scrape this to the ROM root folder and images. I just find it a little bit cleaner. And then that's it. We can go ahead and scrape your systems. You can do them all at once, or you can do them one system at a time. I'm going to demonstrate using the Game Gear system. When you're all set with your settings, go ahead and click Run the Scraping, and it will automatically download all your box art and put it in the necessary folder. And this will take a bit of time, so just go ahead, take a break, grab your beverage of choice, use the bathroom, make some lunch, and when this is all done scraping, you can come back. And you'll see a check mark appear when you're all done. Now for PS1 games, your best bet is to find PBP files instead of bin and queue, because this will give you the best compatibility with the front end, and you won't have to worry about seeing the game pop up multiple times on your front end once you get into the system. However, if all you have are bin and queue files, I'm going to show you what to do. In Scraper, go to the PSX section and go to Games and Front End, and you'll see a list of file extensions that are associated with PlayStation games. Before you run your scraping, just go ahead and delete the bin extension. Then when it runs the scraping, it's only going to run the scraping for the queue files, and that should eliminate any issues that you might have with duplicate games showing up. Alright, we've done a lot of customizing and set up, so let's go ahead and put this SD card back in the system and let's power it on. And here we are at the front end. I apologize, the footage looks a little bit too bright here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you could see it better. And you can hear that menu music that we put into the music folder earlier is playing with no problems. So let's go ahead and check out some of the themes here that we installed. This is the Hey Chromie theme, and we're just going to scroll to the Atari Lynx section just to make sure that that folder change made the theme show up. And sure enough, there it is, Batman and all. And this theme is pretty cool and modern looking, and you could see the box art there. Let's go ahead and check out some of the other ones. Let's go ahead and press Start, and we're going to go to UI Settings, and we're going to go to Theme. And under Theme Set, let's change this to Super Retro Boy Master. And once you pick the theme, it will restart Recalbox, and it will go right into the new theme. And I actually really like this theme. I'll probably end up using this one as the primary theme once I'm done customizing this unit. It's very simple, the game text is easy to read, and you could see the box art with no problem. This looks almost like it's customized specifically for this unit. And here's just a quick look at our PlayStation folder, just to show you that using those PBP files made it so that there's only one copy of each game in the folder instead of multiples. So we're going to try one more theme, and that's the GBZ35 master theme. Now they do have a light version and a dark version of this theme available. We just went with the light version, and this is another simplistic theme that fits very well with this unit. So really, whether to use these themes or to stay with the default Recalbox theme is completely up to you, but either way, it's going to make this unit look customized and it's going to make it look like yours. Alright, let's get into some emulator and ROM settings. And we're actually going to start by going into game settings, and we're going to make sure that Smooth Games is set to on. This is basically a form of bilinear filtering, and it's going to make sure that your games look correct with their aspect ratio. Here's a quick game of Tetris for the NES just to show you how crisp everything looks with that Smooth Games toggle turned on. Now let's change a couple settings in Game Boy, so let's go ahead and click Start. And let's go into Advanced Settings, and let's go to Advanced Emulator Configuration and Game Boy. And there we're going to make sure that our emulator is set to LibRetro MGBA. And what that's going to do is that's going to enable support for Super Game Boy enhanced games like Donkey Kong here. Now you can leave the border on if you want, but if you want to turn it off, press Select and B to go into the RetroArch menu and go to Options, and there you could turn off the Super Game Boy borders. Then, when you restart the game, those borders will be gone, and you'll still get the Super Game Boy colorization without the borders, and you can play the game like you would on a Game Boy Color. And I love playing these enhanced games on a retro handheld like this. It basically gives you the benefit of having a game be like it's a Game Boy Color game, even though it came out before Game Boy Color did. Alright, let's do a quick tweak for Game Boy Advance. Again, let's go into Advanced Settings and Advanced Emulator Configuration. And under Game Boy Advance, we're going to set the game ratio to 3:2. We're going to have small black bars on the top and bottom of the screen, but you're also going to now get the native resolution of the Game Boy Advance. And even though those black bars are there, they're not too invasive and the image won't look stretched out or washed out in any way. You don't have to do much for SNES games, but there are a few special chip games that will benefit from the SNES 9X 2002 core. So for that game, you'll just go into the game option, and you just want to make sure you're running it with SNES 9X 2002. And you could do this with any special chip game like Star Fox or Super Mario RPG or Yoshi's Island 2. Those hard to emulate Super Nintendo games just run better on this core than they do on the default core. And the last setting we're going to tweak in this video is for arcade emulation. So if we go ahead and go to the main menu here, and we go to Advanced Settings and Virtual Systems, we're going to go down to Arcade Virtual System. And while we're here, we're going to turn off the light gun systems because we're not going to play light gun games on this device. In Arcade Virtual System, you're going to make sure Enable Arcade is turned to on, Neo Geo is turned to on, and Hide Original Systems are turned to on. Recalbox will reboot. And when you go back into your arcade system, you're going to see that all of your arcade games are under one menu, and right next to it is going to be an image with which emulator that game is going to run on, which just keeps everything clean and in one place. Alright, we've covered a lot. It's been about 22 minutes of installing and tweaking settings, and there's plenty more to do with this device, but we're going to save that for the next video. We still have to get into N64 and Dreamcast emulation, and we're also going to tweak some more settings like changing out the boot screens and the boot videos. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. And feel free to continue the conversation by joining the Budget Aquaman Discord. There's a great community over there, and they gave me a section for Team Retro stuff. Thanks again for watching, and if this video was helpful to you in any way, please be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.